Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing some meal prep recipes for breakfast out of the Skinny Taste Meal Prep Cookbook. This cookbook is great. I've had it for a while and would definitely recommend it, but it has a whole chapter dedicated to breakfast and I'm going to be sharing 3 of those recipes with you today. All of these are healthy and pretty easy to make. We're going to be making a Greek yogurt raspberry loaf as well as some of these copycat Bantam bagel bites, which turned out so delicious. You are definitely going to want to stick around for this recipe. And then we're also going to prep some breakfast sandwiches for use throughout the week. So stick around and we'll get started. Today I'm partnering with Thrive Market to bring you today's meal prep video. You guys know I've been a fan of them for a long time and I'm really excited to be working with them long term throughout this year so I can bring you guys tons of great content using their super high quality ingredients. If you're not familiar with Thrive Market, they are an online marketplace on a mission to make healthy eating affordable for everyone. They have a couple different membership options. I go with the annual membership, which comes out to less than $5 a month, but if you want to try it out, they also have a month-to-month membership, which is $9.95 a month. They have tons of high quality ingredients on their site. I also love using their app. It's super easy to find what you're looking for. If you are on a particular type of lifestyle or diet, they have all of those available and you can actually filter by diet or lifestyle so that you can just see the products that you're interested in. I'll be sharing in today's video the items that I used from Thrive, but if you guys want to try out Thrive Market, you can actually try it risk-free for 30 days and you are going to get 25% off your first order, plus you get to choose a free gift. So you can go to thrivemarket.com/Jen Chapin or visit the link in the description box below. I know that you guys will love it as much as I do. That's thrivemarket.com/Jen Chapin. All right, so the first thing we're going to prep out of this cookbook is this recipe for Greek yogurt raspberry loaf. I thought this looked really good and I got some raspberries on sale, so it's a perfect opportunity to use those. So you'll need some eggs. I have 2 cartons of raspberries here, some plain Greek yogurt. I have this King Arthur flour that I got from Thrive, some unsalted butter, some salt, baking soda, and baking powder. I also get my baking soda and baking powder from Thrive and then I put them into these mason jars. It works out really well. You'll need some lemon zest, some vanilla extract, some sugar, and some nonstick spray. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is toss our berries with a tablespoon of all-purpose flour. And I've already rinsed these yesterday and put them back in the fridge so they would dry. So you wanna make sure that they're not too wet. So I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of flour to those, and then I'll just kind of toss these gently and set them aside. Next, I'm gonna add 3/4 of a cup of sugar to this mixing bowl along with the butter. And then I have a hand mixer here, so we're just gonna beat this up until it's creamy. It would help if I plugged it in, would it not? Okay, and then for this recipe, you need 2 large eggs, and then we're actually gonna use 3 egg whites. So I'll save the yolks, and I usually just feed them to the dog. What do you guys do with your egg yolks? The easiest way, I think, to separate yolks is just to do it with your hands. Now, some people probably don't like that, but my hands are clean, so it's your kitchen. And I know that also you can buy egg separators, but I find it just as easy to do it like this. Okay, and then I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. This vanilla that I get from Thrive is really good. It is pure vanilla extract, so if you're looking for something that's affordable, definitely check that out. I'm gonna mix this up. Okay, and then the next thing we're gonna do is zest our lemon. So you need the zest of 1 lemon. I'm just gonna do it right over the mixing bowl here. This I'll put back in the fridge because we're not gonna use the juice from this, so I can save that for another purpose. So we're gonna add 1 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. Most recipes say to mix it ahead of time, but I rarely honestly I rarely honestly do that. And usually my stuff turns out fine, so living on the edge here. Okay, and then we're gonna add half a teaspoon of baking soda. There was one time I was making this keto cake. It was a keto almond cake. It's actually really good on camera, and I think I forgot to add the baking powder, and you guys let me know. And I was like, yeah, pretty sure I forgot to add that because it did turn out a little flat, although it really did taste good. So next time I'll have to remember that. Okay, added some baking powder. And then next I need half a teaspoon of kosher salt. Okay, and then we're just gonna mix this until it's combined. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna do is fold in the yogurt. I need 1 cup of Greek yogurt. I am gonna use my measuring cup just because I have one here and I wanna make sure that I get that part measured accurately. These like oblong measuring cups, I'm pretty sure I got them like at a local kitchen store when we were traveling one time. So I don't know, they're honestly like really unique, I think. What's the brand? Norpro. I'll see if I can find a link online, but I've gotten a couple questions about those. Okay, and then I'm gonna fold this in. Normally when you add like either yogurt or sour cream to baked goods, it tends to make it really moist. So, all right, now I'm gonna attempt to fold in the raspberries without breaking them up too much. I obviously won't be able to, you know, not break them up at all, but we kind of want some individual raspberries in the loaf and not just mushed up. Okay, I'm gonna grab my pan. All right, so I've got a loaf pan here, and what I like to do is just kind of spray it with a little bit of oil to make sure that the parchment paper sticks. And then I do spray the parchment paper with a little bit of oil too, just because loaf cakes or breads or whatever can be kind of finicky and hard to get out. This bowl is so heavy. I should have picked a bowl with a handle. Okay, I'm gonna put the batter in here. Okay, so I'm like 98% sure that I had some turbinado sugar in the pantry, which is like the really coarse ground sugar that you can use to sprinkle on top of baked goods to like make a crunchy coating. And I just looked through my pantry and I cannot find it. So either someone got rid of it or I've put it somewhere that I cannot find it. So we're gonna skip that part, which is fine, you don't need it. The recipe says to bake this at 350 degrees for about 50 to 55 minutes. So I'm gonna pop it in the oven and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. All right, so here is how this raspberry yogurt loaf turned out. Definitely really good. You can see the raspberries kind of interspersed throughout the bread, and it did brown up really nicely too. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this cool before I store it, but this would definitely be a good meal prep for either breakfast or snacks throughout the week. And you can also freeze it and take it out in individual slices and have it for breakfast or a snack. All right, so this is the recipe that I'm most excited about in this video. So we are gonna make these stuffed bagel balls, and if you've ever had the Bantam bagels, they're basically just a bagel bite that's stuffed with cream cheese, and then you can put whatever toppings you want on the top. So these are for sale at my local grocery store in the freezer section, and they are like $5.99 for a pack of 6. And so I'm thinking that if I can make these and they're just as good, maybe even a little bit healthier, that I will save some money. So for this recipe, you need some plain yogurt, some flour, salt. The actual recipe calls for 1/3 less fat cream cheese. I don't have any of that on hand, and I had this block of cream cheese in my refrigerator, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use that. Some baking powder. I have some everything bagel seasoning. I actually get this from Thrive also, and then I transfer it into a mason jar. It works out really well. And then I have some avocado oil spray. All right, so the first step is to section out the cream cheese and put that in the freezer. That way it sets up before we bake these bagel bites. So the recipe says to cut this block of cream cheese into 16 pieces. So I think I'm just gonna cut in half, and then we'll do half, and then each one of these will be 4. So that way we'll get 16 pieces total. Okay, so I have these all sectioned out. I'm just gonna pop these into the freezer and we'll make the dough. Okay, so to this bowl, I'm going to add 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm gonna add 4 teaspoons of baking powder. This is very similar to the 2-ingredient dough recipe, except the 2-ingredient dough is you use Greek yogurt and self-rising flour, but this uses flour plus baking powder. And then 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. And I'm just gonna give this a stir. All right, and then I'm gonna add 2 cups of yogurt. I'm just going to eyeball this particular part because I know that when I measure this out, I should have 1 cup of yogurt left in here, so that should be fine. Okay, and then I'm just gonna stir this together. It will be a little bit crumbly. If you've never worked with this, 2-ingredient dough before, there have been plenty of recipes out there, especially like for Weight Watchers and stuff, that have used this as pizza crust. So it is a little bit different than your like traditional yeast dough, so just keep that in mind. I know that some people have said they have problems holding it together and things like that, but once I get this all mixed, then we're going to turn it out onto the counter and knead it. All right, I took my rings and my watch off. You guys like my watch tan I got going on there? Okay, so I'm going to flour my surface just a little bit, and then I am going to have to kind of work this dough together a little bit because the fork isn't quite doing it. I have made this 2-ingredient dough before, and it's actually really good as far as if you're looking for like a pizza crust that has a little bit less calories than a traditional pizza crust. In this case, I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to work because we're using it in a different application like a bagel. Okay, so I've got my dough here and I'm going to use my bench scraper. If you don't have one of these, they're very inexpensive and very useful when you're baking. You can even also use them to like pick up ingredients and transfer them to your pot after you chop them. But we're going to cut this into 4s, and then each section will cut into 4, and then each one of these will be a bagel bite. Okay, now the idea then is to shape each one of these into like a disc, and then put the cream cheese in the middle of there, and then kind of wrap it around to make a little ball. So I'm gonna grab my cream cheese out of the freezer, and then I'm also gonna grab a baking sheet so I have something to put these on. All right, so I've got my pan, got my cream cheese over here. So we're gonna see how this works. I think my sister has made these before. I asked her the other night, I'm like, did these turn out good? And she said that the dough was a little bit hard to work with, but that they were good. So it says cover the cream cheese with the dough, seal well so no cream cheese leaks out while baking, and roll into a ball. So I guess this part is probably a little bit tedious, but again, you're saving a ton of money by not paying $6 for these. So yeah, I would say these are, well, I don't know. I was gonna say that they're a little bit bigger than the ones that you buy in the store, but maybe not. All right, let's try another one. That one went together actually pretty well. I think you do, for this dough, need to make sure that you have definitely enough flour so that it's not super sticky. And also the recipe says that you can use different types of cream cheese and everything. So you can use, like, if you wanted to use a flavored cream cheese, you could do sweet, savory, put cinnamon and sugar on the top. That would be good if you did like a brown sugar cream cheese on the inside. So the other thing I was going to say about these is that the idea too when you make them is that once they're baked, you can freeze them. So you can either make these in an air fryer or in the oven, and then once they're baked, you pop them in the freezer, and then when you want to make them, you can either reheat them in the microwave, or the ones that I've gotten in the store, I've heated in the air fryer and they turn out really good that way. So I imagine you could do that with these as well. You probably do want to thaw them to either refrigerator or room temperature first before you put them in the air fryer, because the cream cheese is going to be frozen, so you don't want Obviously, you know, it's okay if the cream cheese is like cold in the middle, but obviously you don't want frozen cream cheese. All right, so I got 16 bagel bites out of that, and yes, it's bothering me that this is not symmetrical, but 3 rows of 5 makes 15, and we had to put the additional 16th one in there. So in this bowl, I just have 1 egg white that I beat up, and I'm just going to take this and brush all of these bagel bites, and then we'll sprinkle them with everything bagel seasoning. So I admit this did take a little bit of time to roll these, but it wasn't difficult. It's definitely something that is doable, especially if you're going to keep these in the freezer, you know, and you only had to do this every couple weeks. I think it would also be really fun for kids maybe to help with this. I'm just thinking all of the combinations you could do, like pretty much any type of cream cheese, you know, you could stuff these with. Okay, and then I'm just going to use a little teaspoon. I don't know if it would be easier to do this or you just use my hands. It might just be easier to use my fingers. I'll do that. I'll just sprinkle some out into my hand. All right, so these are gonna go into a 375-degree oven for 22 to 25 minutes, and I'll show you what they look like when they come out. Okay, so here's a look at these bagel bites. So definitely would make these again, 100%. They turned out delicious. Some of the cream cheese did ooze out from some of them, so I would say just watch them and make sure that you don't leave them in there too long to make sure that you don't you know, lose all the cream cheese. As you can see, we've already sampled some of them, but I wanted to kind of break one open and show you the inside. So I did tear a piece off of this one so I could show that to you guys, but I will definitely be making these again. I think for the effort involved, they're definitely really good. Like, the effort is worth it. And Adam said that they're even better than the ones that you can get in the store. So definitely a win there. Okay, so the next recipe that I'm going to make is these sausage, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwiches. These look really good, and I've never made them quite this particular way before, so I'm excited to try this recipe. I'm going to modify it a little bit. The original recipe calls for like onions and peppers sauteed in the egg mixture, but I'm going to go ahead and leave those out. So I have some salt and pepper, some slices of cheddar cheese. I have 4 eggs, some turkey sausage patties. So I'm going to cut these up and bake them with the eggs so that then we'll cut them up and put them on the English muffins. I have some English muffins here, and then I'll just use a little bit of half and half to whip the eggs with. All right, so I have an 8x8 baking dish, and I just line this with a little square of parchment paper just because I feel like anytime you're making eggs with something like this, it does have you know, an opportunity to stick. So I just want to make sure that I can get the eggs out in the pieces that I need for the sandwiches. So this particular recipe calls for 4 eggs, so basically 1 per English muffin because this recipe serves 4. And you can put these in the freezer after you assemble them. You can put them in the fridge after you assemble them, or you can eat them right away. All right, so I'm gonna add some salt, pepper, and then just a couple tablespoons of half and half, or you could use milk, or you could probably leave it out, and then I'm gonna give this a whisk. Okay, and then I have my turkey sausage here. This is already pre-cooked, so you don't have to obviously cook it before you add it to the egg mixture. If you were using obviously raw sausage, you would want to cook that, but I'm just gonna kind of cut this into smallish pieces, and Murphy smells turkey sausage, so he wants some. So per sandwich, it says, if you're counting macros, this cookbook does have the macros in it if you're looking for that. Per sandwich, this only has 283 calories, so that's definitely you know, a small amount, I would say, especially for a breakfast sandwich if you are looking for that type of meal. Okay, I think I'm gonna give this one more spray here. Now I'm gonna pour my egg and sausage mixture in there. And then this is gonna bake in a 350-degree oven for about 18 to 20 minutes, and then we'll assemble the sandwiches. All right, so our eggs are done. I'm gonna take out 4 of these English muffins. And so this recipe says that if you're going to make the sandwiches right away, to go ahead and toast them. But if you're going to meal prep these, then don't toast the English muffins, and then you can heat these up either in like a toaster oven or also the microwave. I bet if you could do them in a toaster oven, you could probably do them in the air fryer as well. Okay, so these are the eggs, and I'm just gonna try and kind of loosen the edges here. And then we're gonna cut basically into quarters. Actually, that's pretty slick. I don't think I've ever made breakfast sandwiches like this before with this method of doing the egg, but that's pretty snazzy. So that actually just lifts right out. You can see, actually, I accidentally pulled the the parchment paper out, whoops. All right, so then I'm just gonna top each of these with a piece of cheese, and boom, we've got 4 breakfast sandwiches. This is something that Adam really likes to eat for breakfast, so it'll be good to have these prepped. That way he can just kind of heat one up on his way to work in the morning. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap these in plastic wrap. You can wrap them in foil or parchment paper, but I'm going to use this because obviously foil you cannot heat up in the microwave, so that's a little problematic. I guess if you're going to do them in the air fryer, you could leave them in foil, but you could also just take them out and put them in the air fryer that way too. But I think this will be the easiest, that way everyone can kind of see what they are. I always think that helps too when you're prepping meals to put in the fridge. If people can see what they are, then a lot of times that means that they will get used up in a more timely manner. All right, so I've got my turkey sausage breakfast sandwiches prepped. These were super easy. Like I said, I've never tried this before with baking the eggs this way, but I would definitely do it again. I think that it's a lot easier than standing over the stove flipping eggs, so I would definitely recommend it. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me on today's meal prep video. If you are interested in checking out Thrive Market and getting a discount as well as a free gift, you can go to thrivemarket.com/Jen Chapin. If you're going to try any of these recipes, I would love to know which ones you're thinking about trying. My favorite is definitely the stuffed bagel bites, but thank you so much again for being here, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.